Hello, this is Monday, April 16th, 2015. Welcome to episode number 45 of the Vanguard Report. Around here, we are strict anti-feminists. We don't beat the drum for men's rights very much, but we surely do go after feminism with a vengeance. Okay, a short item to share. I, Theo Bogan, have recently killed my blog, The Counter Feminist. That's right. I have put all 2,000 posts into draft mode and left only a short notice to inform people of what is happening. Fear not. Although I killed The Counter Feminist, I immediately brought it back to life, and now it's better. You will find it more user-friendly with a cool new layout and some cool new features. Gone is the classic notes from underground, subterranean, revolutionary look with the light text against the dark background. The new blog features dark text on white with the sans serif Calibri font, the sweetest font there ever was. It is soft and mild upon your eyes. In the future, I will post only big, solid, meaty articles. No more crappy little short stuff. I am now recycling the better material from the old blog and putting up more recent items as well. And as of right now, there are 14 posts on the new blog. So, go check out the new Counter Feminist whenever you have time. That would be Q number 4 on the Q list, which you will find on the show bulletin at ABFM. Q number 4 for the new Counter Feminist. So, this is episode number 45. I am Theo Bogan. I am here with my fellow host, Nick Redding, a man of Canada, a true son of the Alberta Prairie. Nick,
hey everybody, I'm
say
Nick
hello.
Redding, mensrightsedmonton.com. Check out our website. Check out my YouTube channel. There's always good stuff going on there. That's Men's Rights Edmonton. You can follow me on Twitter at Men's Rights Ed. And if you know anybody in or around Edmonton, or if you are in or around Edmonton and you are interested in seeing feminism fall into the same disrepute as racism, or if you want to set up an intactivist group or something like that, you want to prevent you want to spare babies from having their genitals being mutilated, or if you want to do anything else men's rights related, drop us a line and I'll see if I can help you out. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Nick. Let's move right into the program here. This would be Q number, oh gosh, which Q number is that? Let me see which Q number that is. Yes, this would be Q number 1. Q number 1 on your Q list. Let's go right to it. This is an article recently posted by that evil woman, that nefarious, evil woman, traditional conservative, evil Janet Bloomfield, aka the judgy bitch. She is so terrible. Oh, she is the wicked witch who wants to force men to get married. Yes, that's right. Oh, that evil woman. I'm going to read to you the article which Janet Bloomfield, aka Judgy Bitch, recently posted on AVFM, and that is link number 1. I think a lot of you have read this by now. So, 5 reasons no man should marry and 1 reason he might, by Janet Bloomfield, aka Judgy Bitch. I write this as a woman happily married for 15 years. We met in graduate school, and neither one of us had any real understanding of the risks legal marriage involves, so we did it. It wasn't about having a wedding either, We got married in a park with only close family and friends present, and then we went for pizza. I bought my dress the day before. To us, it was about making a lifelong commitment and pledging to love one another till death do us part. If I knew then what I know now, I might have made a different choice. Being legally married is like having a loaded gun in my hand. I can choose not to pull the trigger, but ultimately his life is in my hands, and that is unfair. No one should have the right to destroy another person, but legal marriage gives women exactly that power. 70% of young men in the U.S. are unmarried, and for the 30% who went ahead and put a ring on it, good luck. Here are 5 reasons no man should consider getting married, and 1 reason he might. Pardon me for a moment. All right, had to do something real quick there. 1, you'll be considered her personal property. Once upon a time, getting married and settling down and having kids and taking on a mortgage was the definition of manhood. All these things made you an adult, worthy of respect and admiration. In 2015, those things make you a chump. Father knows best has been replaced with the image of fathers as bumbling, slovenly idiots who would be sleeping in a dumpster if it were not for the controlling, condescending shrew he married. 2, your sex life will die. According to Dr. Helen Smith, who wrote Men on Strike, Why Men Are Boycotting Marriage, Fatherhood, and the American Dream, married men have more sex on average than single men, but the men having the most sex and the most satisfying sex are men cohabiting, but not married to their partners. Unmarried women know that sex is part of the deal, and refusing regularly jeopardizes the whole relationship. Married women understand that they can use sex as a weapon because the costs of divorce are so high. 3, you will lose your space. In most marriages, women treat the house and all the rooms in it as theirs. You might get a man cave or a closet to keep your things in, but you can be sure whatever space you have is not going to be in the main section of the house. Gone are the offices, the dens, the rec rooms, the billiards room with a wet bar. Spaces designed for the comfort of men have been torn out of family homes, reflecting a new social reality in which men are not considered central to the family. 4, divorce will financially ruin you. Getting legally married is like betting half your stuff she won't cheat on you. No matter what she contributed or did not contribute to the marriage, half of your stuff is hers. It works in reverse, too, if she happens to be wealthier than you, but in general, men earn more money than women, so the reality is she'll be taking your stuff. If you are not married, she has no claim on your assets, nor you on hers. That fact alone makes rejecting marriage the smartest financial move a man can make. 5, you will lose your family. If you have kids, she'll be taking those too. Women get custody of children 80% of the time, and you will be lucky to see your children a few weekends a month. You will have to pay her for the privilege of seeing your own children too, but you have no legal right to make certain that money is being spent caring for your children. If she spends the money at the hair salon, that's her business. If you refuse to pay her, you'll go to jail. Oh, the children don't even have to be yours. You can and will be made to support children she fathered with another man. So why the hell should any man marry? It only applies to men who want children. If you do not legally marry the mother of your children, those children legally belong to her. You have no legal right to be a presumed parent to your children, and it is virtually impossible for an unmarried father to gain access to his children if the mother does not agree. All things considered, marriage is a shit deal for men. When I got married, I had no idea I was asking my husband to take these risks. He didn't know either. We do have children, so I'm glad we married, but it's completely depressing to know the main function of my marriage is to keep me from being a complete monster to him by running away with his children. Obviously, I would never do that, but reality is reality. Gloria Steinem once said that women's total instinct for gambling is satisfied by marriage. But the truth is, but the truth is that it is men who have the most to lose when they legally wed. Men should think very carefully before saying, I do. It can easily turn into an I'm fucked. And that was the article by Janet Bloomfield, aka Judgy Bitch, the terrible traditional conservative woman who wants men to get married, wants to force everybody to get married. So everybody stay away from this evil, evil woman, especially all you guys out there who are walking on a different trail. Yeah, you guys, stay away. You don't want the judgy bitch to force you to get married. And now we go into the main part of the program. Nick, anything you want to, share with us at this point in the program before we move on?
No, I pretty much just wanted to second your warning that that people should stay away from Judgy Bitch, as she will likely, force them to get married or something along those lines.
She's going to come to knock on your door, going to bang her on your door with the butt of a shotgun and shove it in your face and say, okay, down to the chapel, mister. And that's what Judgy Bitch is going to do to you. That evil traditional woman who wants men to get married. So, let's move right along. The next part of episode number 45 of the Vanguard Report. We're going to talk about misogyny. That word that feminists like to throw around all the time. We all know that the feminists don't honestly give a rat's ass about the issue of so-called misogyny. They aren't mainly interested in helping women, but more in attacking men. And helping women is a secondary thing for them. It is merely ancillary to attacking men on the basis that helping women empowers women. That's the word they use. Empowers women, which in the long run gives women, an advantage over men. And if women in general have an advantage over men, then feminist women in particular will be in a stronger position to take advantage of that advantage, which is their goal. It's pretty basic, really. Now, back to the subject of misogyny. As I said, the feminists don't give a flying fig about this issue for its own sake. Their sanctimony is a sham. They are interested in so-called misogyny only insofar as they can make it a crime which men are collectively guilty of, or which any man is individually guilty of. In other words, for them, it's just another way to beat men over the head with a guilt stick, guilty or not. The feminists also love misogyny because they can use this idea for the purpose of anti-male demagoguery as a universal female rallying point. The idea that some men don't like women if you paint this idea in monstrous colors, can attract to the feminist banner many women who wouldn't otherwise give feminism the time of day. So this word is useful not only to beat men over the head, but as a recruitment device to stampede women into the feminist fold. It's sort of like a feminist version of the Red Scare, or you could compare it to a witch hunt. So really, what is misogyny? Well, dictionary.com defines this word as follows. Misogyny, noun, hatred, dislike, or mistrust of women, or prejudice against women. I'm going to take exception to dictionary.com there. I think the word they're really looking for is distrust rather than mistrust. But, maybe I'm just being pedantic. Okay, let's keep this simple. Misogyny may be described simply as negative feeling toward women. That sort of whittles it down. Now, that may sound pretty straightforward, but the tricky part lies in the word women. Does that word mean A, women in the plural, or B, women in the abstract? This is a very important distinction. If misogyny means negative feeling toward women in the plural, then negative feeling toward as few as 2 women on the entire planet would make a man a misogynist. Yes, you could hate just 2 women and love every other woman on earth, all 3.5 billion of them, and you would still be a misogynist, because it would be literally true that you hated a plurality of women. Hence, you hated women. See how tricky that is? You hate 2 women, so you hate women. Got it? But if you hated only 1 woman in all the world, I guess you'd be okay. You don't hate women, you just hate a woman, not a plurality. All right, perhaps I am being silly. Perhaps misogyny means negative feeling toward the majority of women. Say half of the female population plus 1, that would be a majority. So if you hated pretty much every second woman out there, but thought the rest of them were okay, would that make you a misogynist? Or would you need to hate more like, say, 3/4 of all women to approach the misogynist category? How if you hated half of all women but loved the daylights out of the other half? Would that make you a misogynist? Or if you just mildly disliked half of them but loved the other half? Or if you hated 1/10 of them and were merely indifferent to the other 9/10? How if you hated 1/3 of all women, were indifferent to the next third, and mildly fond of the final third? Would that make you a misogynist? All right, enough examples. I think you catch my drift. As you can see, this gets silly pretty fast. And no, I don't mean what I am saying is silly. I mean that what the feminists are saying is silly. What the hell do they really mean by that peculiar little word, misogyny? So far, it's like nailing Jell-O to a barn door. So let's try this a different way. Case B, which I listed above, would make misogyny mean negative feeling toward women in the abstract. And maybe that would work better. It would mean that a misogynist is one who harbors a negative bias toward all women irrespectively, as a class or as a category. Such a person does not postpone judgment until meeting every last woman in the world. That is hardly necessary. The kind of misogynist I'm talking about simply knows that women as a class are no good. They know this a priori, because they have judged all women by some universal quality inherent to femaleness itself. So, to reiterate, a type A misogynist dislikes a plurality of women, but on an individual basis, one by one. While a type B misogynist dislikes all women in the abstract, based on a supposed quality which all women possess. Now, I would submit that if the word misogyny deserves to be taken seriously at all, the type B definition gives us the only stable foundation. If I intend to use the word misogynist at all, the best plan is to limit this to people who clearly and undeniably place themselves in the type B category. And some rigorous semantic hygiene is required here. Now, let's discuss how feminism enters into all of this. As we know, the feminists use misogyny as a guilt stick to beat men over the head, or to silence them for fear of getting beaten over the head. Or they use it as a demagogue's trick to rally women to feminism in the greatest possible numbers. But the worst thing about it, and about everything else that feminism does, is that it continually dials up the fear, tension, and distrust between men and women. Feminism encourages women to see men as oppressors, enemies, political adversaries, and so on. Furthermore, feminism has made available to women various means of harming men, and has furthermore encouraged them to do so by propagating the idea that men are dirty dogs who deserve no better. This is what feminism does, just so you'll know why some of us oppose feminism. So even if you don't give a rip about so-called men's rights, you can possibly see why feminism is a damaging force upon planet Earth, and why something ought to be done about it for the good of all the human race. Women have been instilled for many years with the idea that men are bastards who have oppressed women for centuries. Women are taught to believe that they are owed, morally, spiritually, politically, financially, psychologically, etc. At the same time, we almost never hear any feminist actively preaching to women that they must take accountability for their newfangled liberation. That with freedom comes responsibility, that male life has value, and that men should be treated with ethical consideration and human decency. No, that's not the message that feminism puts out. Feminist silence upon these and related issues is so loud that it almost literally roars. Yes, women have been subtly encouraged to think of men as fair game, and only a tiny number of unicorn feminists like Christina Hoff Sommers appear to see anything wrong with that. Here's a hint. Those people aren't really feminists, and they need to stop calling themselves feminists. They need to drop that word. All right, now you don't need a rocket scientist or Johnny Carson in a turban to tell you where all of this is going to end up. If you encourage women to act their worst toward men, then men react to this by thinking the worst of women and becoming, yes, misogynistic. So it's act and react, and then act again, and then react again. Gotta love that self-fulfilling prophecy. As you see, self-fulfilling prophecy generates misogyny. And the feminists are quick to exploit this by pumping up their anti-male agitprop even more, which encourages men and women to hate each other even more. This is what feminism does. Round and round the cycle goes, and with every iteration, the feminists swoop in to up the ante with more and more anti-male rhetoric. Even though men and women are both hating each other more and more, the feminists conveniently forget to inform us that the dynamic is two-sided. They will never consider that women are hating men more, but only that men are hating women more. You see how that works? And so the hate grows and grows and grows. You want to know where so-called misogyny is coming from? It's coming from feminism. Feminism does more than any other force on earth to make men hate women. Feminism also does more than any other force on earth to make women hate men. But it's impolite to mention that. It's poor form, don't you know? Never mind men's rights. As non-feminist men and women, we must tie feminism to the post and metaphorically horsewhip it to within an inch of its life. Metaphorically. Now, we're not talking about actually taking a horsewhip to anybody. This is just a figure of speech, okay? Just figurative language, all right? But that's right. I blame feminism for misogyny. And I blame it for a lot of other bad things too. End of rant. Oh, Nick, are any thoughts coming into your mind?
No, I don't. I can hardly hear you, and I've got a lot of noise on my end. I'm actually going to have to pack this up today. Sorry.
Okay, well, Nick, if you're going to have to pack it up, we're sorry to see you go. But we seem to be having some technical difficulties somewhere in the system here. Some of the time, my volume comes through very well. Other times, not so much. But anyway.
Very good.
Talk to you later, Nick. Anyway, now let's check out some more articles. This would be, if I am not mistaken, Q number 2. Q number 2 on your Q list. This is from the Times of India. The title, Tougher Rape Law Leading to Increase in False Cases. New Delhi. Fears have been expressed that strengthening of the law against sexual offenses after the Nirbhaya case has also led to an increase in false cases. Now, there's some evidence to support this claim. Statistics on the disposal of rape cases in Delhi's trial courts show a sharp increase in the acquittal rate after the infamous December 16, 2012 gang rape. While in 2012, the acquittal rate in rape cases was 46%, in the first 8 months of 2013, for which exact figures are available, had shot up to 75%. Sources said acquittals remain high this year as well, accounting for around 70% of the cases. Legal experts say the high acquittal rates are because of a spurt in the number of false rape cases being filed. The observations of judges in acquittal cases also bear this out. This is an unfortunate trend. In many cases, women come up with the plea that they had registered the case out of anger and due to misunderstanding, said additional public prosecutor A.T. Ansari, one of the main prosecutors in the Nirbhaya case. A senior woman lawyer who did not wish to be named said, "It's sad but true. Registration of false cases is rampant and hence the alarming acquittal rate. The new law is being misused because of the widened definition of rape." Experts feel the amended law is widely worded and ambiguous in parts and lends itself to misuse. In around 90% of acquittal cases, the victim turns hostile. Mostly, it turns out to be a case of a relationship gone bad. The sex is consensual, but the victim claims that the consent was given on account of promise of marriage. And that's one of the cultural issues going on in India. If you promise to marry a woman and have sex with her, but you later don't follow through on the promise of marriage, that could get you on the hook for raping her. So this anti-male, anti-rape thing is worldwide. Other reasons for registering false cases seem to range from extortion, recovery of dues, property disputes, and extramarital affairs. Laws dealing with sexual offenses against women were strengthened post-Nirbhaya incident to provide speedy justice and greater security to women. Ironically, the conviction rates were higher when the laws were less stern. Explaining how the new laws were more vulnerable to misuse, a former senior prosecutor said the consent of the victim, which had earlier been a debatable issue among judges, was settled with a clarification in Section 375 of IPC. It specified that absence of physical resistance cannot be construed as consent. Okay, that sounds familiar. I feel there should have been an exception to the false promise of marriage concept because that is the excuse which is mostly taken up by women to register false cases, even though the sex was consensual, the senior lawyer said. Though there is a provision to prosecute people for perjury if they lie in court, it's rarely exercised to prosecute women in these false cases. Well, that's how it is in India. That's how it is in other countries. This is all sounding very familiar. There's a pattern emerging here. The courts generally don't use this discretion because they don't want genuine victims to be wary of approaching courts for justice, said senior advocate Aman Lakey. Worried over the disturbing trend of false complaints, even fast-track courts trying cases of sexual offense have been raising concerns over the matter. In July last year, while acquitting a 75-year-old man of the charges of raping his maid, a fast-track court observed that the capital has earned the notoriety of India's rape capital because of the increase in false rape cases being registered in the city. The alleged victim in this case had admitted that she registered the case because she wanted to usurp the accused's property. In January this year, additional Sessions Judge Virender Bhatt expressed the need for empowering courts to order compensation for persons who get implicated in false cases. The judge, while acquitting a man of rape charges registered by a married woman in March 2013, remarked it was a voluntary liaison, which was turned into a rape charge after the woman's husband pressured her into lodging a complaint. Recently, another fast-track court judge, ASJ Nivedita Anil Sharma, observed that there was a trend of registering false complaints by women who wanted to save themselves the embarrassment after an extramarital affair. And that's the article. So, yeah, a lot of people want you to think that false accusation of rape is not a thing. It doesn't happen. It very rarely happens. It's not a problem. It's nothing to be worried about. And yet, I can tell you right now that the easier we make it for women to lie about rape, the more women are going to lie about rape. And the more innocent men will have their lives destroyed. Even if they don't get convicted, they'll have their lives destroyed because they've been dragged through trial by media. And if they do get convicted, well, then they go to prison and they might get raped themselves, even if they never raped anybody. But, they'll get raped anyway. I guess that's okay because after all, they're men. And men have been metaphorically raping women for the last 10,000 years of the patriarchy. This is what the feminists tell us. And if I'm wrong about that, if that's not the real feminism, then the real feminism had better stand up and set the record straight and chase the unreal feminism off the stage of history. And then we can see the real feminism and find out that the real feminism is, well, not so bad after all. But I'm going to put the burden of doing that upon anybody who identifies with feminism or leans toward the feminist side. And to me, as a non feminist, I have no responsibility to clean house for feminism. It's on feminism to clean house for itself. And feminists, or anybody who even leans in that direction, okay, you're under the lamp now. You're on the hot seat now. It's up to you to remedy things. You've got to step up to the plate while the world is watching. And we've got to see what you've got to say for yourselves. We really want to see what you've got to say for yourselves, or what feminism has got to say for itself collectively. Any way you want to work it, but feminism, I should say, you are on trial. The world is not on trial. And I speak to you as a member of the rest of the world which is not a part of feminism, which by all accounts seems to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 75% of the total population. Count me as one of the 75 percenters, as one of the people who, for whatever reason, says no to feminism. Just say no to feminism. And I, Fetal Bogan, the present host of this radio program, I say no to feminism. And I hold feminism accountable for what feminism has done, and I expect answers from feminism. And yes, feminism is what I say it is, and what we all say it is. The point is that feminism is what the world outside of feminism says it is. We've had enough of feminism from inside the walls of the feminist clubhouse telling the world what it is. Like the rest of us don't have eyes, like the rest of us can't think and can't see. Well, we can see perfectly well, we can think perfectly well, and we can see what feminism is. You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, and you don't need to be a meteorologist to describe the mechanics of a tornado. If you can see a tornado coming at you from across the prairie, miles away, you know what a tornado is and you know what it's doing. You don't have to be part of the tornado. All right? So, feminism, you are on the spot. We want some answers from you. We, the 75 percenters, the rest of the world, we're holding you accountable. And if you're not a feminist, well, step up and say so. Like I'm saying it right now, I'm not a feminist. If you are a feminist, then you need to step up pretty frequently and let us all know that you're a feminist. So at least we know where you're coming from and we all know where we stand. And boy, this false rape thing, I tell you what, it's a pretty bad deal. And a lot of feminists don't really care about it. You know, if you're a man, you should understand that feminists don't care if you get your life destroyed. If some woman gets up in court and lies about you and says that you raped her and sends you to jail or ruins your good name for the rest of your life, feminism is just fine with that because, of course, that is a way of empowering women. Anytime you hurt men, anytime you damage men, you're making men weaker. You're taking away men's power. You're shoving men into a hole, and you're making women stronger. And feminism is, at its core, at its eidetic nexus, it is all about empowering women, making women stronger any way they can. And yes, it's at the expense of men, because, of course, having any kind of ethical regard, ethical concern for men would only put a limit on how far you could push the empowerment of women. Power corrupts. Power means you can do anything you want. And of course, if you have any moral concern, ethical concern with somebody else, you've got to put a limit on what you do that might affect that person. But feminism recognizes no such limits upon women. As far as feminism is concerned, men are fair game. Okay. And if that seems a bit harsh, well, I'm waiting to hear back from feminism. And I will expect their reply to be in a respectful tone of voice. All right, that was a pretty good rant. Let's move on. Nick, I wish you could have stayed around. Anyway, let's move on to Q number 3. Here is some more feminist shenanigans. You're going to love this one. Q number 3. Feminist night demonstration against austerity measures off limits to men. Okay, the feminists are having a street demonstration and they don't want men as part of that demonstration. This takes place in Montreal. I've heard that Montreal is about the worst feminist hellhole in all of Canada. I've heard some really, really, really funky things about Montreal. A demonstration by a feminist organization off limits to men took place Tuesday night in opposition to the Couillard government's austerity measures. But like many other protests, this one ended with a forceful police intervention. A few hundred women who had gathered at Norman Bethune Place next to the Sir George Williams campus of Concordia University in downtown Montreal went north on Guy Street. The protesters were followed on each side by a strong police presence. The police blocked their advance at the corner of Sherbrooke Street and McKay. Stopped in their tracks, the protesters started chanting, "It's not men who are going to tell us what to do." Okay, I wouldn't dream of telling them what to do. They're welcome to march over a cliff if they want, but I wouldn't tell them to do that. I would just, encourage them to do that. The protest organizers had warned on Facebook that male protesters and male journalists would not be tolerated at the demonstration. That's pretty strong language. They would not be tolerated. The protesters tried to impose their itinerary to the police. What does that mean, to impose their itinerary to the police? Boy, they need proofreaders here. The protesters, okay, this is what it says. The protesters tried to impose their itinerary to the police. At a certain point, police officers on bicycles faced off with a bunch of protesting cyclists. And the old tapes of the Toronto shindig is running through my head right now, and people yelling, "You're scum, you're fucking scum." Yeah, I'm thinking of that. So around 10 p.m., some protesters breached the police cordon and a melee ensued, forcing police to use pepper spray. Montreal police then ordered the protesters to disperse. Tear gas and sound bombs were used to break up the crowd. I'm going to have to Google that. I don't know what a sound bomb is. Sounds like something that creates painful shock waves in the air, maybe, drives people away. One woman was arrested for assaulting a police officer, and another woman was arrested for failing to follow a policeman's order under the P6 regulations. And that is the end of that short article. So these were feminists, violent, angry feminists. Now, I know that not all feminists are like that. That's what they always tell you, right? Not all feminists are like that. But some feminists are sure as hell like that. The ones that count. The ones that aren't like that, they are zeros in the political algebra, or if not zeros, they are negligible quantities in the political algebra. The only feminists that really count in all of this is the violent, hateful kind. Because they're the ones that make things happen. They're the ones that make history, as we say. And they're the ones that hold our interest for just that reason. The less angry and the less radical and the less violent you are, basically, the less feminist you are. It is that drive to increase the power of women combined with the hatred of men and things male, which is the fuel core that makes all of feminism run. And you take that away, and feminism wouldn't amount to a hill of beans. This is pretty basic, but it's something that we all need to understand. So, as far as I'm concerned, if they don't want men in their little parade, that's fine. They are welcome to scream that men are not welcome in their little parade. And I don't want to be there. I don't have a problem with that because I don't want to be in their parade with them. I don't want to be anywhere within 98 miles of those people if I can help it. So that's fine. That's fine. But this is feminists doing what feminists do. And we should encourage feminists to do what feminists do and do it in plain daylight, so to speak, in the public square, so to speak. We want everybody to see just exactly what feminism is. And boy, this shows us what feminism is, and it ain't pretty. Okay. So I don't hold it against them that they wanted to exclude men from their parade. But I do want to point this out because it is so very illustrative of what these people are. They're not nice people. Okay. I'm not sure you would want to work with them or have them for neighbors. You certainly wouldn't want to have them in your life in any way, any capacity where they could potentially backstab you or do you some kind of harm. And yet they're all over the place. And yes, this is the real feminism. And they are not the fringe of feminism, the fringe extremist feminist. There's no such thing as a fringe extremist feminist. If they are extremists, then by definition, they are not on the fringe. They are right in the middle, right smack in the middle. They are the core. Then looking down at the reader comments, of course, everybody here definitely calls it like it is. These are all people on our side. And saying, hey, folks, this is feminism. We know what feminism is. I don't know if anybody has noticed, but there is a rising groundswell of public opinion against feminism. More and more people are starting to speak out against feminism these days. It's not just your classic men's rights kind of people. It's just all kinds of people, just regular, ordinary folks. Not to say that men's rights people are not regular, ordinary folks. They are, but it's becoming more and more obvious that people who are opposed to feminism are a very, very diverse group. And they're mostly, they're just folks. Just like your people you meet every day, like your own family members. They're just folks. And they are beginning to see feminism for what it is. They're starting to put two and two together. They're starting to connect the dots, and they're starting to see the picture. And they're speaking out. And what's even more interesting is that they are speaking out on target. They are speaking out to the purpose. They are speaking out with some kind of direction toward various points of significance. That's the encouraging thing. And I think the job of people like us, we strict anti-feminists, agitators, and even people who are just to consider themselves men's rights people, we can all begin to put the word out, begin to put out the information. And our task is simply that of spreading information, propagating information. Information wants to be free. And everything we can do to show the world what feminism is by revealing the persistent behavior of its participants and by pointing out the patterns, shall we say, the engineering diagram that links all of this together, and to implant that wisdom into the minds of more and more people so that they can begin to map reality for themselves and then propagate the information further. We are going to come to realize that feminism was a huge, huge mistake, a blot upon the page of history, like somebody tipped over the whole ink bottle. And The ink is indelible. It will not be washed away. The page will not be ripped out. In the future, we must see to it that feminism does not get whitewashed or prettied up for posterity. We need posterity to understand just what feminism is, just how foul it is, and in no uncertain terms. And I see we're coming up close to the end of an hour, and I really don't think I'm going to go on for 2 hours here, even though I do have 2 hours at my disposal. We have not yet filled the other time slot on the Monday double feature, so we're still the Monday single feature. And since Nick's not around, and I've gone through everything I had to talk about tonight, and I feel pretty much talked out at this point in time. So I think we're going to wind things down here in a couple of minutes. Everybody, go check out the new Counter Feminist blog. I killed the old one. Go look at the new one. If you like the old one, you will doubly like the new one. If you didn't like the old one, you might like the new one. It is a more user-friendly reading experience. So that is on your queue list, and that is queue number 4 on your queue list. That's counterfem2.blogspot.com. Go there and check back, because I'm going to be posting pretty important stuff there in the future. And it's all going to be good material, good, long, meaty, weighty articles. And if you want to get a hold of us here at the Vanguard Report, well, that's on your list too. That's queue number 5, vanguardreport@usa.com. That is our email address. You want to talk to us for any reason. You want to say you love us. You want to say you hate us. You want to tell us something interesting. You want to give us a hot tip about something. Whatever it is, send it along to vanguardreport@usa.com. And on that note, I think I'm talked out. So, folks, it's been a great episode. I'm sorry Nick couldn't stick around, but he'll be back next week. I'll be back next week for episode number 46 of the Vanguard Report. Everybody, never forget, feminism is what we say it is. It's not what feminism says it is. Feminism is what we say it is. We, as the rest of the world, have some say in defining this thing called feminism. We have some narrative authority. We have some rightful input. And by God, we're going to start using it. So, once again, feminism is categorically, feminism is what we say it is. And on that note, everybody, I wish you all a good week. Until next week, episode number 46, I will see you then. Bye-bye.